That's not the kind of language that we use at Oxford. Please don't do that again. So, I'm not going to talk about health so much, about illness so much. Now we're going to talk about appearances. We're going to talk about Zinzino Skin Serum. It might seem less serious in some ways than the other things that we do, but actually it's based on the same principles. Everything that we do is based on the concepts of protecting the body and its processes, helping to repair, to rebuild, regenerate, and to turn back the process of time. We don't have very much time. I'm at least 2/3 of my way through life now, probably more like 3/4. Our time in the sun is very short. And the beauty of youth is very transient. It's not very many years before the aging process takes us over. It happens just as quickly in men. We're not immune. And the reason why I chose this photograph is that this is someone I know. He's a friend of mine. His name is Tommy. He's an American. He lives near where I do in Florida. And he's 10 years younger than I am. But he doesn't live a healthy life. He lives on the beach. He's a surfer. He's also an alcoholic and a smoker. He's also diabetic. So there's a lot of harmful factors which are accelerating the aging process for him in a way that they don't do for me. Now we're starting to look at how that aging process can be modified, how it can be modulated, how it can be reversed. And it starts off with a very simple idea. The human face is very like a piece of furniture. We have the same 3 layers. There's the skeleton. In this picture, it's a wooden frame that represents our skeleton. And on top of that, you have the padding, the muscle, and the fat tissues and the tendons. And right on the top, you have the skin, represented here by the leather, which is made of skin. Now, we didn't really know how to reverse aging until quite recently. It's only now that we know what the aging process is, how it affects these 3 structures. Now we can begin to ask the right questions. And finally, we can begin to come up with the right solutions. We start at the surface. We can help to regenerate the matrix that underpins the skin, that determines the fine texture of the skin. And to do that, we use a combination of actives that are present in Balance Oil, Xtend, and Zinzino Serum. You can, if you want to go further than that, you can rebuild or maintain the muscles and the tendons that underlie the skin, that really determine its topology and its tone. And the techniques that people use, this is not really part of what we do, but I'm very well aware of them. I know people who do this. They include electrotechnology and facial exercises, and then finally, the prevention of bone loss, which is very much to do with nutrition and oral hygiene, and that's where Balance Oil and Xtend also play a role. So how does it all fit together? Well, what you don't do is use cosmetics or simple moisturizers. They don't work because the way that the skin is constructed, the sin cells that are formed deep inside the epidermis are constantly rising to the surface and they're being sloughed off. We shed our skin in the same way that a snake does, except not all at once, but in millions of little individual cells. So when you take an ordinary cosmetic and paint it onto the skin surface, you're actually applying it to dead cells. There's not much that you can do there apart from just simple cosmetic work. So instead we take a slightly more profound approach. We look in detail at the nature of the skin itself, which is a representative in some ways of the whole of the rest of the body. It has its own circulatory system, its own endocrine system, its own nerves. And we look in particular at the very smallest scale of the skin. And when you start to do that, you can see here, beginning to emerge, is a network. You see the yellow fibers that run through the skin? This is what we call the extracellular matrix. Take the cells away, that is what you are left with. It's a 3-dimensional mesh of microfibers that runs through not only the skin, but all of the rest of your body too. And it's the different amounts of the different fiber types in different parts of the body that determines whether that body part is soft or squashy or flexible or elastic or strong. It's like a physiological system, and in fact it is the physiological system that allows all the other physiological systems to function. So let's get down to the biochemistry. This is a cartoon of the matrix, and you can see here that, yeah, collagen is a part of it, but it's much more complicated than that. There's at least 8 different forms of collagen, and then you have laminectin, proteoglycans, glycosaminoglycans, many, many different families of microfibers, and you need all of these in the right amounts, in the right place, in order to maintain texture and tone in the skin and everywhere else as well, which is why those simple beauty products which sell collagen really don't work. You need much more than that to have any effect. So what is the matrix? There's collagen, number one, but all the other proteins are playing an equally crucial role. Then you have the amino sugar polymers. Those aren't proteins at all. They're built not out of amino acids, but amino sugars, and hyaluronic acid, which you probably know of as a moisturizing agent, is there. And then you have copolymers, aggrecan, perlecan, syndican, and others. Like I said, it's a very, very complex and highly organized physiological system. So why does skin age? It turns out it's nothing to do with the cells. Very little to do with the cells at all. It's everything to do with the matrix. If over time you live a lifestyle, which means that gradually you're losing the matrix, as it becomes damaged, as it shrinks, the skin becomes thinner. It becomes more fragile, more easily torn, less elastic, less able to hold moisture. And that manifests itself as wrinkling, thinning, and becoming more prone to injury. And at the same time, the immune cells in the skin, called the Langerhans cells, which also depend on the matrix in order to orientate themselves correctly and to function, they become less able to do their job. And as the immunity in the skin becomes less, we become more vulnerable to infection and very much more serious skin diseases. So why is it that you should lose matrix as you get older? Why does the matrix degrade as we get older? Well, actually, the matrix, like all living tissues, is incredibly dynamic. It's constantly being broken down, and it's constantly being replaced. If those two processes are in balance, skin doesn't age, or it doesn't age so fast. I mean, I'm 10 years older than that Tommy, that picture I showed you. And I don't think I look as old as he does. But I can... But it's a simple trick. It's a very simple trick, and I'm going to show you how to do exactly the same thing. If those processes are in balance, skin really doesn't age at all. Or if it does age, only very, very slowly. But if you live a lifestyle, which means that there's too much breakdown and not enough repair, in other words, every day maybe you're using 10 units from the matrix and only replacing 1 or 2, then of course over time there is a progressive loss of the matrix and you get the slow weathering or erosion of the skin that we think of as the aging process. But by those same criteria, once you know what these steps are, what we can do is to change them. We can modify them. What we can do is to improve the rate of repair. We know exactly how to do that. And we can slow the rate of breakdown. So now, instead of losing 10 units every day and just putting back 1 or 2, now you're only losing 1 or 2 units every day and replacing 10. The matrix grows, it becomes more extensive, more healthy, and every aspect of the aging of the skin is reversed. The skin rejuvenates. Very similar to the principles that we apply internally with our other products. So, what are the breakdown factors? This slide has come on in bits and pieces, so let me show you how this works. There are 3 major destructive phases: inflammation, oxidation, and glycation. Inflammation, you know a little bit about. Oxidation, it's kind of part of the common language now. Glycation, that's when you don't have enough control of your blood sugar, or you're consuming too much sugar. There's too much sugar inside the bloodstream, it starts sticking onto other molecules and it starts a process where they start to break down. So what we do is, in our products, we have compounds that stop each one of these steps. So inflammation, we stop with omega-3s and polyphenols, and they are in Balance Oil, they're in Xtend, and some of those are in the Skin Serum as well. We stop oxidation with the beta-glucans, the polyphenols, and other factors, which are also in Balance Oil and in Xtend. and as you can see here in Skin Serum, and we stop the glycation, this last destructive mechanism which you might not be so familiar with. We stop that with polyphenols. Polyphenols are the best nutrients that we know of, the best actives we know of, that stop this destructive process. And they are present in Balance Oil, they're in Xtend, and they're in Serum as well. So we're stopping each of the three major forms of matrix breakdown. And then, to further improve the balance in your favor, we add the repair factors, which improve the skin's ability to repair, heal, and regenerate. We use pentapeptides, they're quite well known, the copper peptides. We use them in a very advanced form, and they're present in the Skin Serum. We do it indirectly by stimulating the Langerhans cells, the immune cells in the skin, using our soluble beta-glucans, also in the serum. And then Xtend provides all the cofactors and the building blocks that the fibroblasts need to make more matrix. So it's a very complex combinatorial approach. And I don't have time to explain each of them to you, but I will take you through very briefly how the beta-glucans work. It's a complicated slide. Even some of my students, university students, don't get this, so I'm going to go through it quickly. Let's see how good you are. There's all kinds of microbes on the surface of the skin. That's the first box. In the second box, if you cut the skin, microorganisms get inside to the deeper tissues, and many of those are yeast cells, which contain beta-glucans on their membranes. Those beta-glucans get to this kidney-shaped organ here, which is in fact a lymph node, and it tells the lymph node, or the immune system, and the immune cells there, we've been invaded, we need to have better defenses. So the immune system creates a strong response to kill the pathogens, and it says to the fibroblasts, hey, the skin is being cut, we need to mend it. And it tells the fibroblasts to become more active, make more matrix. What we do using soluble beta-glucans is we mimic the arrival of yeast cells in the deep tissues without actually damaging the tissue. We bring the beta-glucans down to the immune cells. They think that the skin must have been broken, so they can send instructions to the fibroblasts, start to repair the skin, and the fibroblasts make more matrix. It works together with the copper peptides, 1 and 1 making 11. Far more effective than any other product of its kind on the market. In fact, the beta-glucans are so good at encouraging skin to regenerate and to heal that they're now being used in a couple of research units to improve surgical wound healing. And here you see a slide where you have either a control group in blue or the beta-glucan group in red, and after the skin has been cut, you can see that the wound heals much more quickly. The healed tissue is much stronger because more matrix has been made at day 4 and day 7. We're switching on the skin's intrinsic healing and regenerative effects. So what are the overall impact of our approach, the different products that we have? Well, we increase matrix formation and we increase skin healing. We reduce matrix breakdown. The overall impact, very logically, it can't be anything else other than the fact that the matrix grows. It extends, it becomes better at what it's supposed to do. So the skin becomes thicker, stronger, more elastic, better able to hold moisture. Fine lines disappear. The arrow of time is reversed. Aging skin becomes younger skin. And it's a very easy trick to do. This cartoon kind of shows how we do it. So think of the amount of matrix in any given area of skin as the amount of fluid inside a cylinder. So the fluid is here marked in beige. And as I said, all tissues, all living tissues are dynamic. They're constantly being broken down and replaced. So at the bottom of the cylinder, there's a hole. Parts of the matrix are constantly being broken down through inflammation, oxidation, glycation, but they're constantly being replaced. So this is a picture of healthy skin. And if those two processes are in balance, the skin doesn't change. The amount of matrix, the amount of fluid in the cylinder remains the same. But the problem is that the way in which we live today means that most of us, unless we're taking Balance Oil, of course, suffer from a kind of stress which makes our inflammasomes go into overdrive. And when the inflammasomes are operating excessively, you lose too much matrix. The matrix is being destroyed at a far faster rate than it should be. And if at the same time you're eating a modern diet full of processed foods and junk, and you're not getting enough of the nutrients you need, you can't replace the matrix quickly enough because your fibroblasts and almost every other cell in your body is starved. And under those conditions, over time, the amount of matrix gets less and less and less. And then it gets even less, and then one day you look in the mirror and you think, oh my God, I've got crow's feet, or I'm middle-aged, or I'm old, or older than I want to be. So, what do? First of all, we switch off the inflammasomes. And the best way I know of doing that is by getting back into balance. Balance oil is a superb tool to do exactly that. So you close, or partially close, the hole in the bottom of the cylinder. And now we add Xtend, which provides all the cofactors that the fibroblasts need to make more matrix. And now we can start to see an improvement in skin microstructure and appearance. Then what we do is we add Zinzino Serum. And now we can apply some very important actives in high concentrations directly to the skin, directly to the fibroblasts, and directly to the matrix. And under those conditions, that's when you really see changes. Here's a little trial we did. It's just a preliminary study, but there will be more on the way. We looked at the impact of this approach on skin elasticity. There are special devices that we use to do this. They're the gold standard in dermatology studies. And you can see here that in the placebo group, receiving no treatment whatsoever, elasticity goes down a bit, it goes up a bit, but over time there's no real change. If you look at the next group, group 1, which only received Zinzino Skin Serum, you can see a nice, steady upward increase in skin elasticity over the 60 days. So their skin elasticity is a marker for the strength and the health and the extent of the matrix. Clearly there's something very good happening there. But here is group 2. I've got the numbers wrong. This slides are jumping around a bit. And this is the group that received Balance Oil, Xtend, and Skin Serum. And you can see here it's a dramatic, it's a remarkable increase in skin elasticity in only 60 days. For those of you who can do the math in your head, it's a little bit over 30%. It's groundbreaking. It's not just groundbreaking, it's visible. Now, I know a lot of you who've tried Skin Serum, and I can actually tell, because I know some of you very well, I can tell who's been using it, because I see people, then 3 months later, I meet them at another meeting, and I can tell, wow, they do look younger. They look different, they look so much healthier. What's going on? This is a computer-assisted microphotograph of a particular wrinkle in skin. This is at the beginning of the study, this is before treatment, and then after treatment, the wrinkle has started to fade. And that's just, that's just the beginning. I think we can go further than this. With everything that we do, all of our products are in a process of constant development. Like software, we go through versions. Version 1.2, 3, and 4. Version 2, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4. Version 3. We'll continue to do this. This is another way of looking at the wrinkle using light microscopy. The wrinkle before and after. You can see the difference. So here we have it. This is the first real inside and outside approach. Other people claim to do that. I think we're the first people to really approach, to really achieve that. It builds on Balance and Xtend and takes the concept much further. You're slowing matrix breakdown. You're increasing matrix regeneration. You're rebuilding the matrix. Here are the actives. Short-term, hyaluronic acid. It moisturizes. Calendula extract, which is an anti-inflammatory agent. Microbeads, very sexy. Microbeads have been banned by the EU and by America because plastic microbeads, when you wash, get into the drains, into the oceans, they're picked up by algae and krill, and we think they may be damaging the food chain. So, working together with some very good Australian scientists, we have developed a microbead which is made from agar, which comes from seaweed. So once you wash it away, once you wash it away in the shower or the sink, it simply goes back to the oceans where it came from. Then we add a whole bunch of other actives, including powerful compounds which switch off the inflammasome, which prevent oxidation, which stop glycation. 7 and 8 compounds which encourage and educate the fibroblast. And finally, a touch of beta-carotene, Why? Because a little touch of beta-carotene gives your skin a kind of a golden glow. And according to the evolutionary biologists, they say that that makes you a more likely and successful mate. It makes you sexy. I'm ashamed I said that. I'm a scientist. So here you have it. There's Zinzino Skin Serum. I think this is, I'm very proud of this formulation. I think it's a breakthrough. And like everything else that we do, it is tested, it is effective, and it is protective. Thank you.